I'm here today with Victoria in Dewey, Arizona, and we're going to chat with her a little bit about her experience working with us in the transition of her mom to assisted living and how we help with the house and the stuff and all the things that we typically do for our clients. So can we start by hearing a little bit about you and what you do for a living?
For the last 4 years, I've been here taking care of my mom. I was her only caregiver, and her dementia had reached a point that she could not live alone. And so I moved here from Minnesota to take care of her.
Yeah, which that's a huge sacrifice that you made. And
yeah, but there are times when it's part of life.
For sure. Yeah, and you definitely stepped up to the plate. I know when we met you, it was at that point where you were talking about getting your mom into assisted living. And
yes.
Another big change for her.
I had just recently discovered that assisted living these days and memory care is nothing like the nursing homes when I was a kid.
Yeah. And
we would go and sing carols for them at Christmas, and it was I was thinking of those, and I was like, I could never put my mom there. How am I supposed to do this? Because her dementia had reached a point where it was no longer safe for either of us, for me to be doing it and for her to be in this home. She needed to be in a place that was set up to care for dementia patients. And then I went and toured them, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can put her here.
They're very nice.
And then my next step was, how am I going to do that?
Right.
So
yeah, and then it starts to get a little scary when you see the cost of those things and what it's going to take, right?
Yes, very scary.
Yeah.
And I knew I was looking for probably a year and a half for how am I going to do this? The only way to do it is to sell the house. I couldn't get to a point where I could sell the house with her living in it.
Right.
So
there's a lot of pieces you got to put together, a lot of dominoes that got to fall to make it all come together.
Well, and one of them having to do, probably, and I've heard from friends who've had the same situation, you can't start touching their things and trying to get the house in order. You can't start packing anything because it kind of, it stirs something in them. And they already are on a plane where they don't really know what decade they're in,
right?
And so you kind of do stir things up and you can make things worse, at least for the temporary, if you start trying to get the house ready to go. Yeah,
you got to tread lightly.
Oh, very, very.
Yeah. So how were you first introduced to our company, Mountain Shamrock Properties?
I was told about a group called Oasis, Senior Advisors. Oasis Senior Advisors, and they were wonderful to work with because their services were free, but what they did was they hooked me up with people who could help me, and they were like, well, what is it that you really need to do? Do you need somebody to come in, a nurse? And I'm like, we're beyond that, and so they were like, oh, we know just who you need. When I said, I absolutely have to sell the house in order to afford her living quarters. And so they sent me to you.
Yep. And that was Chris and Andy Remy.
Yes.
Yeah, they're phenomenal people, and the whole industry's kind of like that because it's never just one thing that people need, right?
Yeah, I discovered that there's so much, and that was before I even got to the point of trying to get the house ready to sell. That was another whole basket full of lots of little things.
It's like an onion. Right? You peel back a layer, and there's more layers underneath.
And they all make you cry.
Yeah, they do, don't they? Yeah. So one of our main goals as senior transition specialists is to make the sale of the house, dealing with all the stuff in the house, that big mountain of things that you got to do. We try to make that as easy as possible on you.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how we accomplish that?
Well, I would not have known everything that needed to be done, and I discovered there were things that I thought were absolutely necessities that had to be done, and you were like, you really don't have to do that, and I was like, I don't. So there was just having your knowledge of what needed to be done, what didn't need to be done, and then your connections with, well, I have a guy who does that, I have someone who can take care of that. I was like, oh my gosh, because I was dreading having to call around and get estimates and everything. And then it's like they've already been vetted, they've already, you've already worked with them. And I knew there was just kind of a click that I was like, you knew what you were talking about, everything was going to be okay.
Right.
And then what would you say? I overestimated my abilities to get things done at a certain time.
Well, you did a lot though. You were an integral part of the process. It wasn't just all of us, right? You did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And because I was also the only person here, everything was kind of overwhelming, but just having you guys in my corner and knowing that, oh my gosh, that has to be taken care of. But Andy already told me, and some of the people I had to talk to in order to make, the schedules work.
Appointments. Yeah.
That, I mean, obviously I'm the one who has to be here to let them in or whatever
Right.
needs to be done. But just knowing that I didn't have to do all that extra running around looking for it. It was already, I mean, anybody selling a house it's going to be a bit overwhelming, especially if you're doing it all alone.
For sure.
But when it came to those things that were truly, they would have been out of my league when things would be nice and normal, if it were just my house. I'd lived in this house for all these years and I had, I knew what everything was. That would have been overwhelming anyway, just trying to do alone. But with you guys helping me, honestly, it was, I've already been telling everybody, oh no, these people have helped me so much. I couldn't have done it without you. I think I would still be, I'd still be living with my mom right now and her not in a place that's so much better for her. If you guys hadn't stepped in, because it is an overwhelming process.
Yeah. On top of everything that you were dealing with your mom, right? Which
Yeah.
is the stuff you need to focus on. Let us focus, help you with the cursory stuff.
And I mean, you guys even helped with that part, getting that set up.
Yeah.
To get her moved.
Yeah.
And that to me was the first big, really difficult thing. Because, I think it's common for people to think, oh, is this really the right thing to do? Is this really the right thing to do?
It's a challenging decision.
And within a week, and I had gone back to see her and, checking to make sure she's settling in. Or no, they said, give her a week. And I did. And I went and I'm like, this woman, she was not wanting to do anything. And now she's like the life of the party, where she went. So,
which is outstanding, right?
Yes.
Like the change in her life.
Yes. And that helped me have a much better attitude as I went through the rest of the process. So, but you guys even helped just getting her there. And, that was just kind of like the very first big hurdle.
Yeah, exactly. Can you talk about some times where maybe we went above and beyond your expectations of what you had of us coming into it?
A lot of it was above and beyond my expectations because I really thought that I was going to have to do a lot more of it. Now I'm having a hard time pinpointing something. Well, just as different things came up, I was able to call you or text you and just say, hey, this is what's going on. And because other overthinkers will relate, but I automatically thought, oh, he's not going to want to hear this. He's not going to like this. This is just causing so much trouble. And you were like, oh, that's no problem. And you had a solution. And I was like, oh. And then too, it was like, it really wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
But
if you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
Right?
And that was the thing, is I didn't know nearly what I needed to know.
Right.
In order to do this. It seems like this situation, having a parent who's going into, assisted living of some kind and trying to get their stuff sorted, and, we had at least a single garage depth full of their stuff. And with her having had dementia all those years, for about 10 years, and then my dad passing away before I came, I didn't know what anything was. I didn't know where anything was. And so I know a lot of people are in that situation when it comes to dealing with their parents' home.
Yeah.
And so there were even people who could come, it just depends on where you are, but there's a group here that will come in and help you go through your garage and sort things. And I'm like,
yeah, we set you up with those folks. They came, 3 times?
Yes.
To help you?
Yes.
With that?
The first time they looked around and were like, oh,
yeah.
But they're like, oh, we can do this. And then my sister came out and we together were like, okay, that's Dad's, that'll go to our brother. It's, having to do with his military and all these different things. And they were just, having them set up to come in and we did meet them 3 times. And then after that, I was just like, okay, I gotta just pound this out, you know, and it had gotten down to a level where I could.
Yeah, and then you had a yard sale, right, to get rid of
We had a
some
garage
stuff.
sale, and that one, you know what, it made enough money to go to the next step and pay some cash for a few things that I needed for, you know, in the house. I was packing up all the excess, and the whole living room was full. I think you came over one time.
I saw it,
Yeah, and the whole living room was full, and we had like 10 crates of Dad's files from years and years and years. So, it was definitely an overwhelming job, but it was kind of funny because when you came in and went, "Whoa," you know, I was looking around going, he acknowledged it. It is a big deal.
Oh, it is. Yeah, no joke. No joke.
Yeah, and so I went through that. You know, I got a little bit of help from family, but it just kept plugging forward. And along the way, it was like there was always this little. And then you checked in when we were just waiting on, not waiting, but like we had finished with most of the not the cleanup. You know, like we put in a bathroom, a tub, and
we did.
Got some work done on the you know, toilet seals and checking everything.
Yeah, some prep stuff prior to listing that we had to do just to make it more attractive, right?
Yeah, there were things that just, you know, they were there from the beginning, from when the house was built, and they needed to be upgraded.
A little sprucing up.
Yeah, and that was the area where I thought everything had to be spruced up. Like, oh, okay, you know, I watch those shows.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I love those shows. Yeah. But it's like, oh, I don't have to put in a brand new stainless steel sink to match all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you watch those shows, that's kind of where your mindset's at.
Well, yeah, and they kind of give you the feeling, you know, that you have to, and that was something that I was very happy to learn. I didn't have to do everything.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So one of the things that we offer our clients is what we call our immediate care financing program.
Yes.
And that's where we will provide funds for a variety of things. Sometimes our clients just need money to get mom or dad into assisted living until the house sells. Other folks like yourself use that money to spruce up the house, hire the organizers to come over, move, you know, any variety of things. So we want that money to be useful to our clients for whatever they need it for. And you chose to take advantage of that. And I just wanted you to talk a little bit about how having access to that money from day one really helped you and your mom through this process.
Yeah. I think the very first thing that we did was paying the deposit and getting mom into the memory care facility.
Ativo, right?
Yes, yeah. Ativo. Oh, love the place. And I love the people too. They're very, very hands-on. And so those people, and like what you said about there being a lot of people like this in this industry, I'm thinking you're talking about the senior care.
Yeah, senior care.
All of that.
Yeah.
I have discovered that people are much more willing to help and cooperate, and they tend to see you as a family member more as part of the team rather than just, well, now the person's in our care, you know, you just stay out. But they were so great in helping me see everything that needed to be done and how much it was going to cost to get things started. And I think they worked pretty quickly and easily with you guys.
They did, very,
and so it was like, yes, there's a lot that I have to do in this position, but there are people in this industry who are so ready to help and make things, you know, even if they're not paying for it out of their pocket, or if they're just making it easier for you to make this happen, they're there. And so that was the first thing we did, was getting mom there. And the dollar amount was like, man, that's just the start. That's just the start. So then we did, we put new carpet in the bedrooms. The regular floors didn't need anything, but the carpet was, you know, it was almost as old as the house probably. That
was probably visually the worst.
Visually
really
it was,
nice house,
yes.
Right? But you could tell the carpets were worn.
Right, yeah.
Something you want to do.
Yeah, everything else just was like, just get all the clutter, the extra furniture and stuff out, you know, that had been accumulating. And then those were the two biggest things to me, though, was the tub and the surround. And it's so nice looking now, because just that nice, clean, bright, you know, and this one's white. We put in white because why not? But yeah, that and the carpet was the big one. And then we spruced up the kitchen a bit.
Spruced up the kitchen, a little bit of painting here and there.
Yeah, just paint. Oh, we painted out some of the walls. that were definitely my mom's favorite yellow.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that, you know, we need to go back to neutral on there, but
Exactly,
it still looks better than when I got here, though. I had the walls painted for Mom because she hates gray, and her favorite color is yellow, which would make sense, you know, for her to hate gray. But so that whole room in there, that whole section was gray, and it made everything dark.
Yeah.
And then we just painted it all yellow, and she would sit there and talk about how pretty it was. So, but it's like, you know, most people walking in are going to go, that's a really bright yellow.
Yeah, and that was kind of our recommendation, was like, hey, we want this to be appealing to
yes.
the masses, right? Like there might be some people come in and like that yellow, but most people might be turned off by it, and some people don't want to do work.
Right.
They just want to move right in, you know. So those were some of the things we talked about up front with you. We had our yard cleanup, you know, weeds, trimming trees, bushes,
and never let go of Devin.
Yeah, no,
He's
he's a great
fantastic.
guy. Yeah, we use him for all that stuff.
Yeah. And he did good work, you know.
Yeah.
And that was the thing too, was just having it done professionally, because I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to paint this, you know, because I already knew I'd have to paint the yellow because it was a bright color.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to paint that, but there's no way I can put a tub in,
Yeah.
you know. And
yeah,
so there was,
you know, we've done quite a few big projects, so we had people in our pocket that we could bring to the table to knock that out pretty quickly. I think they were like one weekend, right? They banged it out, and they had a couple of things they came back for.
yes, yep. It was just one weekend. They did the bathroom, I could say the bathroom because they had to take out the toilet even.
Yeah.
And then in that in order to get the new tub and everything in there, and then they also, you know, made sure that everything was good with the toilet and put it back in and.
So yeah,
the kitchen.
A lot of money to do these things, right?
It was.
You would not have been able to do without our funds.
No way.
And the way that it works is whatever you need, we cut you a check, or we pay the people directly, and then once the house sells, you pay us back, right? Through the title company. So you never had to get your hands dirty with any of that, really.
You know,
So.
that's a. I told you before. I think you said I was allergic to numbers, and I would never have been an accountant. My way of dealing with stuff is today it works well because I can put everything on auto pay. All the bills that I can put on auto pay get put on auto pay, and I make sure the money's there.
Yeah.
And that's. But other than that, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, I have to pay this person, that person, and that would have just been so much more on me. And I was already, you know, like I said, I was in a constant state of being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And just moving forward through that feeling of being overwhelmed. It's like, well, I got to pack and just pack up another box and pack up another box. But then there was this whole huge thing of where would that money come from?
Right.
Because my thought was, I need to get the house fixed up to really sell it. But if I try to sell it like this, I'm not going to get nearly as much because the kind of work that needed to be done would bring the value down.
Right, could.
Yeah, and yet, where was I going to get the money to do the work? You know, so.
It's a huge dilemma. Like your situation is very common.
Yeah.
It's rare when people don't have these issues. So that's why we brought that financing program into the mix. Is because we saw a need for it.
It is a brilliant plan.
Yeah, it's helped a lot of people. It's been, you know, rewarding for us to be able to provide that.
Yeah.
So what do you think you liked most about working with us?
Most. Well, you guys are real. I've dealt mostly with you and a little bit with Sarah, and she's sweet. I like her. I think when I talk to my friends about it, it's the whole package. Because it is a huge. There's the finances that are dealt with. And it's not a handout. You know, it's not charity because you guys will get paid back, and you're selling the house, and so it's like you guys. I don't have to feel like I'm a burden or this is what you guys do, and so the financing being off my shoulders was absolutely a godsend. But then also just that constant reminder that there's somebody here who knows what they're doing, and
security blankets.
Yeah, and that was. Like I said, the whole situation, and I don't think there's any way to get out of it being overwhelming if you're dealing with your parents' life, you know?
Yeah, it's a huge decision.
Yeah, it is. And there was the constant back and forth with, this is my mom and dad's stuff. and this is their home. But that to me was the hardest part. Whereas if you guys hadn't stepped in, there's a whole lot more that would have been a lot harder, you know, just trying to pull everything together. You guys had it already in place, and it was just kind of like a plug-in. And
and it's kind of a recipe, if I want to use an analogy, because almost everybody goes through the same exact things, the same feelings, the same process.
Yeah.
There might be some wrinkles here and there that are unique to the individual, but
yes.
Once we've got that recipe in place, we can bring that in and run with it with you guys and make it a lot easier on you.
And your level of confidence, just that it's no big deal,
Yeah.
you know?
Because we've been there.
Yeah. I mean, you've got this calm demeanor, and I'm just like freaking out, and you're going, hey, Victoria, it's all right. And I'm just like, okay, I believe you.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone who is maybe sitting on the fence and trying to decide, well, should I work with these guys? I don't know.
Hands down, absolutely do it. Absolutely. Yeah, there was nothing that you answered my questions when I had questions. You know, and that was the thing too. I'm someone who has a lot of questions because I want to know that what I'm doing.
Sure, I would be the same way.
And good, because I was like, he's gonna hate this. I got another question, but after a while, it was kind of like, I need to know. It's no big deal. He'll just answer me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was absolutely. I would do it again, and if I had my best friend, I would say do it. I would absolutely.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
And would you feel comfortable recommending us to family and friends?
I already have.
Nice.
Yep, I do.
All right, excellent.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add about your experience?
Well, I know right at the beginning when Mom was sitting over there and you and I were talking, and I know I had tears in my eyes when you described what was going to happen with the loan and how, you know, these things would be paid for and then just paid back at closing. And I'm like, of course, and I had tears in my eyes, I know, because I had been looking for like a year and a half for some solution to this problem, and Mom's dementia was getting worse and worse and was becoming unsafe. So I know I told you at that time that you were literally an answer to prayer, because I had been praying for a solution, and you're like, well, I like to think that, you know, people are, how did you put that? That people are,
I don't remember what I said, sorry.
It was something like people are an answer, not an answer to prayer, but like, you know, people are the answer that come through. And I'm like, exactly. And that's what God did for me, was God brought you into our mess and helped turn it into what it is now. And we'll be closing soon.
Yeah. Yep, so, next week, right?
Yeah. The
light at the end of the tunnel. And then you're gonna move to California to be with your son,
My
right?
son, yeah. And he's excited. And he says, Mom, I already have friends for you.
Nice. Well, we love the happy endings. We love to hear that your mom is like happy and her life is better.
Yes.
Now where she's at.
Yes.
And your life's going to be better once you're out there with your son, and that's what it's all about for us.
Right. Yeah. It has been one of the healthy, strong, good parts that went running through this process that was so scary.
Yeah.
And you guys were just like right through the middle, just going, it's okay, and everything's happening, and it kept moving forward. And that is what helped me survive mentally and emotionally.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking. I always use the analogy, you know, you're standing at the bottom of this big mountain and you got a to-do list that's a mile long, and you have no idea how you're going to get from point A to point B. Yeah. And you get resources like Chris and Andy Remy, and they bring me in, and then I bring Devin in, and Chris in, and organize. Like, there's so many different pieces to the puzzle. And you said it earlier, like, to try to figure that out on your own when you never have gone through it before, that adds another layer of stress. And to be able to have trusted people that can come in and do all that for you, I mean, it's huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And knowing that, and like you said, trusted, I wouldn't have known if they were trusted or not. You know, you guys had the contacts, so I didn't have to. You know, as a woman alone, especially, you worry about that kind of thing.
Yeah, getting taken advantage of.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
So I didn't have to worry about it at all.
Well, it's been a pleasure working with you, Victoria.
Thank you. You too.
We really enjoyed getting to know you and helping you guys out, and I'm excited for your next step in California.
Me too.
And I hope we can stay in touch, because I want to hear how everything goes for you out there.
Okay. Well, I definitely have your number, so.
Yeah, I know you have my number, yeah.
Yeah, plenty of times.
Yeah, but thank you
Thank
for
you
everything.
so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for doing this for us too. This means a lot to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
We were born before